All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome to 2022 TnT Championship Season 2. That's a mouthful. I'm Delthius. How's it going, everybody? So we're kind of at the end of week 1 here in the event, but I thought it would be fun to kind of throw up some graphics like this and talk a little bit about the event itself and then also the players that are involved. So, yeah, this is the first major community event since the Clan Wars. It's more of we call it kind of our try-hard, competitive season for, sometimes we have a lot of like crazy events in the scene that are like team games or crazy rules like the gentleman comes up with, but this is just straight up, hardcore 1v1 elimination style tournament. So really excited to be here helping kick this off. We've got a big shout out, of course, to all the organizers, Tander Draco, Lupus Osorum, Unprecedented Studios, Senzedge, and QQ helping out behind the scenes. Just for a little refresher, too, last season our champions were Aralu for Premier, QQ for Intermediate, and Degrazian for Beginner. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how the format works. So basically I think we've got 45 players in this event, so pretty nice turnout. And you get split into one of four, or I should say 2 of 4 divisions. You've got your traditional beginners, intermediate, and premier, but we've also got a patch test division this season, which is kind of twofold. Part of it is helping Illuminatus, test out these new units and test out some changes that are coming up, but it's also just another fun division you can compete in. You can compete in both the patch test division and one of the others, so players can be in both of those. And so we've all got split up into 5 player groups here at the start, and essentially each group is going to have 5 players in it, and then it's a round-robin format, which means that you fight everybody else in the group in a best-of-5 once. I think beginners is best-of-3. I'd have to double-check on that. But really what's important in these matches is not necessarily who wins the best-of-5, but the map score itself. So winning 3-0 is much, much better than winning 3-2. So then after these first 2 weeks, all the results are going to get tallied up from the groups, and the top player is just going to go right to the playoffs, so they kind of skip the next part of the event. Players 2 and 3 go to the next group stage, and players 4 and 5 are eliminated, and they're out. So beginners, intermediate, and premier all work that same way. And again, big shout out to all the other casters, by the way. Tander Draco, Unprecedented Studios, Deep Sea Sasha, Kipo, and Urban Olive. It's a lot of work trying to get through all these replays, to be honest. I mean, replay casting is fun, but I'm an older gentleman now, so I don't have like a ton of time to cover a lot of this event myself. So other people coming in helping cast is always great. And if you're interested in casting, feel free to reach out to one of the organizers. We'd probably be happy to get you to help us out here. Our intent is that every match gets casted, and then for this season, Tander wanted to specifically try to get all the premiere matches on YouTube. So him and I are working together on that. So at the end, we'll have a nice YouTube playlist that's got all the premiere matches in it. Okay, so last thing I wanted to do before we get kicked off here is just quickly go over all these groups. I thought that'd be fun to kind of talk about the different players here, who I recognize, who I don't recognize. So starting with beginners group A for the week 1 matches. Felix, I remember the name Felix. He was around back in the day. Anki, I feel like Anki's changed their name. I've seen them around a lot. I'm familiar with Anki as well. Meow Kaiser, any old school fans of Tooth and Tail are going to remember Meow Kaiser. Good to see him back. He was pretty prominent, pretty strong player back in the day, and also a caster. I'm curious. My eye's kind of on Meow Kaiser because I know he's out of shape, so I think it makes sense that he's in beginner. But we'll see how much he picks the game back up. He might roll through. Let's see. D Kenny and Wilson are not names that I recognize, so maybe they are new players or just returning players that didn't really participate in events before. Moving on to Group B here, we've got Lupus Osorum. Of course, one of the event organizers. I think most people are familiar with Lupus. Scar, I've never heard of. Misto, I've never heard of. Kashmir, I've never heard of. And Bonkco. Bonk is It holds a special place in my heart, man. Back in the day when I would do replay casting shows, Bonk would always send in the craziest matches of him just, I don't know, just doing weird stuff, man. It was like super off meta. Doesn't make any sense at all, but it was really fun to watch and to cast. Very creative player, so I'm interested to see how Bonk does in this event. Good to see him back. It's been a few years since I've seen him around. Beginner Group C. Let's take a quick look here. Rush, yep. Rush is a pretty well-known name in the scene. Dragon Turtle as well. Kitzel, Thermal, and Arsenic. I don't really recognize the names of them, so they might be new players, or maybe this is their first event. Also, people like rebrand themselves a good bit, so it could always be somebody changes their screen name or their handle or what have you. So I mean, Rush is a good player. We'll see how they do. And yeah, Dragon Turtle also I think is pretty strong. So Beginner Group D here, Wildkin, good to see them back. They would participate in the replay show and also events a couple of years ago, I think. Effigy, Burn Victim, and Green Fox I don't recognize. So again, in my head, I'm kind of putting them in this category of like someone who changed their name, somebody new to the scene, or maybe somebody who this is their first event. Winterload, of course. Winterload was also casting and involved in event organizing. Great caster a year or two ago, I want to say. So Winterload and Wildkin, I think of the names here. Well, of course I'm going to say that, right, because I don't recognize the other ones. But yeah, so I'm really happy to see such a stacked beginners division. I think it's cool that there's a lot of names that I don't recognize here, and more people are coming in and showing up and checking out these events that folks work pretty hard on. So intermediate Group A, moving on to intermediate. Leon, I think Leon has been playing pretty well, also known as Mr. Ziggy, if I am getting the nicknames, if I'm not messing that up. Delphius, that guy's horrible. He's going to be the first one out of the group for sure. Also bad caster too. Urbane Olive, pretty good. I'm not super familiar with Urbane Olive's play, to be honest. I do, unironically, I think Olive's a great caster. So looking forward to see how he does in the event. Studios, I think, is pretty strong right now. I'm kind of eyeing Studios from some matches that I've played with him in skirmishes and some stuff that I've seen. I think Studios is pretty on top of it at the moment. So in my head, he's kind of one of the ones I'm looking at to go far and intermediate. Noun Verber, also known as The Stretch. Yeah, also another really good player, aggressive player. I think if I had to put my money on, I would say Studios and The Stretch are probably going to win this division. But let's see if any of the other players can make it out. All right, Group B here for intermediate. Exnor, yep, a pretty standard name. Evil Murloc. Evil Murloc's a pumper, man. He did well last season. And let's see if he's in good shape this one as well. Tandor Draco, of course, the main man behind this event. Shout out to Tandor again for the hard work putting this thing together. Casting. He's also normally a pretty good player too. So I haven't seen what kind of shape he's in this season or how sweaty he's going to get, trying hard. But I think Tandor's got a good handle on the game. Vili Pita, I don't recognize that name. Maybe it's a new name or rebrand of a player. And Chicken Finger Subs. All I gotta say about Chicken Finger Subs is he has the best screen name in all Tooth and Tail. And he also makes me upset because I moved to Minnesota for work a little over a year ago. And I used to live in the South, and anybody who lived in the South knew about the grocery store Publix. And they had the most amazing Chicken Finger Subs. So every time I see that name, I just think of that chicken finger sub in my head that I can no longer get, and it makes me sad. Okay, Premier Group, which is this is actually the group we're going to be looking at today. I don't think we got all the replays in, but we got a few of them, so we'll be able to go over some matches here. Araloo, of course, well-established badass. I believe Araloo was the winner last season, with Melvin Fro in second place. I have to double-check my notes there. Tatanka. Of course, Tatanka's been a top player for a long time. I think Tatanka really drove the meta in the past patch with the Wolf Owl Snake Skunk style. We got Meek, of course. Meek is also this really I think Meek's a really creative player from what I've seen of him. He likes to do stuff like go artillery, get weird tier 3 timings. He's just a wild man, and I think that's really strong. It's got ups and downs, right? Because obviously the meta is the meta for the reason. It's the safest, strongest way to play. But sometimes when you're doing stuff that's really creative, you can catch people off guard. And by the time they figure out how to adapt to it, it's too late. So I think that Meek really has that kind of play style going for him. And I feel like I could say pretty much the exact same thing about Big Pimpin' Tosh. I think those two have a pretty similar play style on the way that they approach the game, just kind of doing things a little bit crazy. And I feel like especially in a best of 5 or even best of 7 or 9 when we get further on format, that kind of strength is really, really good. I think being able to play the meta, but then shift in those weird decks, those weird play styles, to try to take a quick victory is really strong. And Cactus... Is this Cactus's first season in Premier? I know Cactus came on the scene a couple years ago. Always performed well. But I was a little, not in a bad way or anything, I was just kind of shocked to see Cactus in Premier League. So maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong there. But I feel like Cactus might be like the newer guy on the block here for the Premier matches. Okay, Premier Group B. We're almost wrapping up this little intro spot here. We got Melvin Fro, of course, pretty strong player, well known. He also likes to hang out a lot and be in the Twitch chats, be hanging out on Discord. Very strong player. I think he was second place last season in Premier. Sasha, I think I've seen some of Sasha's games this season. She's looking very strong. I've been very impressed by some of the. So far I haven't seen a lot of Sasha's matches yet, but I've been really impressed how she's kind of like taken this meta and then thrown a couple things in there like Squizzard that other players aren't doing and kind of mixing up a bit. Also a big proponent of the Boar, I believe, at the moment. Kipo, also looking really strong from some matches I saw of him yesterday. And QQ, always a wild man. I think QQ is very interesting to watch. He's very, very strong. I believe he's Masters in StarCraft 2. I don't know if he ever hit the GM level, but very strong, very aggressive player. And of course, Lego Man. Lego Man's been around in the tournament scene as long as I have. Big Snake player. So curious to see how Lego Man performs in this meta where the Snakes are not as popular. I think Snakes still have a place in the meta. I don't know. Like, it seems a lot like Tier 1, Tier 2 is dominating right now, but it's a nice Swiss Army knife to have in your deck in case the opponent gets a Tier 3. Snakes deal with that very nicely. And with the new Snakes, they do one-shot pigs now, which is nice. You can still kind of do some esports sniping, tag all the different pigs. You can't kill the mill with them anymore, but you can kill all the pigs pretty quickly. And finally, Premier Group C here. We've got Mishi, Zensej, Trumpet, Nightslayer, and Protocam. I think Mishi's always the one to look at here. If you ask some players, including me, maybe this is a tooth and tail boomer opinion, but I feel like Mishi's the GOAT for tooth and tail. I think you could objectively say that if anybody crunched all the numbers as far as Mishi's performances and events and how many first places and second places and third places he's gotten over the years. But Mishi's also been around since 2017, so it's, he's got that advantage of he's been in a lot more events, so of course he's going to have higher performance. Zensej is also a very strong player, been in events quite a bit. I don't think we've seen Zensej really break that level and get a solid performance yet, get a championship belt to wear around the waist. I could be wrong there. Trumpet, good to see Trumpet back. Trumpet's also a pretty strong community member when he gets into the game. He likes to cast, he likes to play at a high level. Pretty cool dude. Nightslayer's been performing better and better. And I feel like Nightslayer and Protocam are kind of in this spot where they've both been around for a long time. They're both really good players. And I think they're hunting for a big win here. I don't think either one of them have really gotten that just yet, so So yeah, that's kind of a quick overview of the event, everybody. Of course, once again, big shout out to the organizers, Tander Draco, Lupus, Osorum, Unprecedented Studios, Zensesh, and QQ for putting this together. The other casters, of course, make sure to watch their games, make sure to follow it. I put all the links to the other casters underneath the stream you're watching now, so you can quickly just grab those, hit a follow, and see when they're live. We also try to put everything in the Discord, so if you go to the Discord and you go to videos, you should be able to mostly find all the matches here from everybody else. So yeah, that's about it for the introduction, folks. But I'm looking forward to getting into this. We're going to get into some premiere games, and yeah, look forward on YouTube. We're going to try our best to get a nice video series of at least the premiere group, so we have that on YouTube, you know, as a reference moving forward. So cool. All right, without any further ado, let's get into some games here.